This video is sponsored by Surfshark, the best VPN on the market. Surfshark is an app or browser extension that allows you to change your location to access websites in other countries and keep you safe from hackers. For example, we here in Ireland can access other countries' Netflix libraries, streaming services such as DAZN in Spain for those all-important Premier League games. Surfshark keeps you safe and private by protecting everything you do online. When your device connects to the internet, all that information is, in a way, blurred out. Surfshark is particularly useful for keeping you safe if you use public Wi-Fi, such as a college or a cafe. Surfshark allows you to use one subscription on unlimited devices, meaning that you can even share an account with friends and family. On top of this, Surfshark offers a 30-day money-back guarantee, so if you don't like it, you can even get your money back. Our sign-up offer gives you Surfshark VPN for just over €2 per month and up to 4 months free. Why not scan the QR code on screen or use the link in the description to take advantage of this offer. What is up, my friends? How are we? It is Sunday night and I got home early enough that I thought, you know what, I gotta get on and chat with everybody because of course I missed you guys. So we've a bit to catch up on over the last couple of days. Do want to start off by saying thank you to you all, of course, for coming on and giving up some of your Sunday evening to come and have a chat with me. I spent the last couple of days showing some friends around some parts of Ireland, and it was lovely to get out and about, meet some people as well. And thank you to anybody who I did bump into out and about as well for always being so kind and nice when you come up. Right, first one of the night, straight in, already before the stream started, Aaron. Boom, we love that. Thank you, sir. Said, hi, Craig, hope you're well. In this Sunday, it's still so unbelievable that we signed Wirtz. I saw the video the club posted, but it's still hard to process. I know. Aaron, I'm the very same, mate. I'm still kind of, like you said, pinching yourself that it's happened, that he is now officially a Liverpool player. There's no more conjecture or talk or, worrying about anything happening. He's a Red. He's signed. It's done. It's beautiful. And again, what a great start this has been to the summer. Milos Kerkez, that one's going to be Tuesday when he comes in for his medical. I think Fabrizio Romano said that there was a slight technical twitch, which I'm guessing is something to do with his visa or something like that. So I'm sure that will be resolved. And Tuesday then he will be in to start his medical and the process of, well, joining Arna's Red Revolution. So hope we're all in good form this evening. Hope you got some, as you can see, I got a little bit burned out in the sun, but hey, that's okay. Better to see some sun out there than it to be raining out. So, yeah, but look, I did miss you. I was chatting with a couple of people in our Discord group before we started, and yeah, I wanted to come on and catch up with you all because, 2 days away is too long for me. Craig, did you see the interview with Frimpong from today? I did. Actually, funny you mentioned that. I watched it a few minutes ago. Speaking about the fact that he's a winner. He's coming in to win trophies. He understands the pressure and the weight of playing for Liverpool. Doesn't mind the competition, of course, with Conor Bradley. Yeah, good to see. Again, I'm liking what I'm hearing from the lads so far this summer. It's great to see him in. It's great to see him with that big a swagger and confidence as well. So, yeah, fair play to him. David Sultana said, good morning, hope you're well. Do you think we'll sign a centre-back or a forward? So centre-back, yes, I do think we'll get one. Forward, yes, but maybe not a striker. Like I tried to intimate in the video last night. I'm not sure if you got a chance to catch up with it yet, but I'm unsure whether we'll get that centre-forward yet. Now, again, I will make sure that you guys know, I'm not saying this from a perspective of knowing something you don't know. I'm just trying to figure this out as a fan. What on earth is going on here? So we're back. Sorry, YouTube booted me off. Sorry, folks, YouTube booted me off. I didn't know what was going on. I'm back there now, but I'm sitting here and then all of a sudden I just see, well, you're gone. Bye. YouTube kicked me off for a second. So, yeah, sorry. We're back now. I don't know what happened there. As I said, certainly came as a shock to me because the connection is excellent. So apologies. I don't know what happened there. I was halfway through saying something anyway and it went. So We're back now anyway, we're back. And again, apologies for that one, but we are back live now. Don't know what happened there. YouTube just decided it didn't want me stream, and I thought, God, have I got in trouble? Have I got in trouble? Being in the sun? Yeah, I have. As you can see, forgot to put on any sun cream, didn't I? Keep forgetting that if no protection up top. So yeah, look, I could do with it. My pasty ass could do with a bit of sun colour, so why not? So yeah, sorry about that one, folks. We are back now anyway. Don't know what happened there in all honesty, but we're back anyway. It was only a temporary measure. Shane, how are we, dude? So if Gakpo goes, do we go for Gordon? Helps with homegrown quota. Guehi replaces Quansah, but we need somebody to replace Konate. Maybe VVD rates him highly. Or maybe Haddo. VVD rates him highly. So on the let's start off with the Anthony Gordon part of this. So again, I don't know anything to be a fact for anybody outside of the positions I spoke about at the start of this window that thankfully have seen all the way through to them signing. So with regards to the forward line, your guess is honestly as good as mine, Shane, at this point. But what I'm trying to gauge by looking around, I don't really know what's going on up top, because it does look like even the club are now starting to admit that Isak's impossible. Between the crazy numbers involved, the lack of value in the deal, and the concerns about injuries, it doesn't look like that's a runner whatsoever. Now, what I can't answer is the Ekitike question. I truly don't know where Liverpool's heads are at, whether they think Ekitike is worth the money or not. I get the feeling two things. One, Darwin needs to be sold, and then we'll start to see what the club want to do. But I keep coming back in my head, Shane, to something I read the other day from one of the journalists saying that Arne Slot wants young, versatile forwards that can play across the front line. And that's got me thinking a little bit over the past couple of days. So I don't think it would be the biggest surprise in the world to me if we don't sign the number 9 in this window. I think we'll bring in a forward to cover the Darwin departure, and maybe even another one if Chiesa goes. But I don't know if that's going to be a central striker or not. That's what I'm trying to figure out at the minute. What was the rest of your question? With regards to Joel Haddo, definitely some interest there. We know that. As you mentioned correctly as well, Virgil van Dijk, big fan of his. And he'd like Liverpool to bring him to the club. We also have to keep in mind that Arsenal are taking a look at Joel Haddo. I think one of the journalists said the other day, whilst they haven't agreed a fee with Ajax, they have offered him a 6-year deal. But again, we'll have to wait and see. Was there another part? And Konate, no idea. My gut feeling on Konate is I don't know if he signs or not. I'm starting to feel more and more fearful that he won't, and that Liverpool will sell him. But on that, I read something just before I went live that says Konate promised to Real Madrid. And it reads, Ibrahim Konate is attracting serious interest from Real Madrid, and new manager Xabi Alonso has reportedly been told he can go and get him. But here's where it gets interesting. According to Defensa Central, Perez has promised Alonso that if Liverpool are willing to sell for £26 million, the defender will come to the Santiago Bernabeu. So what we're going to gain from this is that Liverpool won't be selling to Real Madrid, because there's no way. The club are taking 26 million quid. Not a chance. Liverpool still value Konate with 1 year to go upwards of £40 million. So if Real Madrid want them, they're going to have to up that number significantly if they want to put an offer on the table. What I can say is whether Konate will sign a new deal with Liverpool or not. Some people are jumping the gun. I've seen some reports that said Konate's frozen contract talks with Liverpool. He's willing to run down his deal. He wants to leave the club. I can't say that any of that is true because I don't know it. But what I do feel is it's going to be an interesting couple of weeks on it, because we can't let this drag on. We need to go into the season knowing that we've got everybody for the season, and they're not going to have another situation like Trent where Konate leaves on a free. So it'll either be new deal or he leaves, but which one of them it is, I don't know. My gut feeling, and it is just that, tells me he leaves, but I hope I'm very much wrong in the way I'm reading this. Shane, how are we, sir? Said, hey Craig, hope all's well. Finished the Leave Insert on Friday. Had a great night after it. Well, you've deserved it, Shane, my man. You've deserved that great night. So delighted for you that it's all done and dusted. Now you can put it out of your mind, obviously, till the results come out and then the CAO offers. But well done, my man. And I'm glad you had a good night as well on the Friday after it, mate. Enjoy. Very much. I certainly let loose myself after mine. If Guehi signs, could you see us trying 3 at the back for some games? VVD, Guehi, Konate, pushing Frimpong and Kerkez higher up the pitch. For some games, you never rule out anything. The reason I struggle to see it is when you've got a shortage of centre-backs, and we've got 3 or 4, let's say that, you don't want to be putting 3 out there on the pitch, because if one of those gets injured, you're up shit creek again. So for me, if you ever want to utilise a system where you want to play 3 centre-backs, I would say we need 5 centre-backs at the club. But like you've said, the potential is there with the players that are there. We've not seen any real indication from Arne yet that he will switch to that system, so I'm not expecting it. But certainly if Marc Guehi does sign, he wants to come in and play because it's a World Cup year. Now, what we can say on Marc Guehi at the moment, according to multiple reports, is that he has decided to depart Crystal Palace. So it's either going to be this summer or he runs down his deal and leaves on a free. And there's absolutely no way that I can see Crystal Palace letting him leave on a free. It would be madness for a club like Palace to allow him to leave on a free. They have ambitions to get about 50 million quid from this summer. I can't again tell you what Liverpool are willing to pay because I really don't know. But it does look like if he comes in, he's going to want not assurances of every week playing, but he's going to need to know that he's going to be given an opportunity because he's going to want to go to the World Cup. So again, no manager that I'm aware of will ever guarantee somebody that they're starting every week, but he's certainly leaning to a Liverpool move from what I can gauge in all the newspapers and from all the journalists. But again, to me, the whole window from a defensive standpoint, it really just comes down to what happens with Konate. Because Quansah out, Marc Guehi in. I don't think any of us are going to think that's weakening ourselves. But the Konate situation is really important. That's the one for me that will dictate how our defensive setup is going to be in this window, or if we have to do a bit of last minute scurrying around to try and find somebody. And on the Quansah stuff, again, I'm sure you've all seen this, but we've gotten the here we go from Fabrizio Romano. Jarell Quansah to Bayer Leverkusen, here we go. £30 million with 5 million in add-ons. Liverpool have a buyback clause with future control of Quansah should he leave Leverkusen. Now, what do you mean by future control of Quansah? I think he just means option. Liverpool have an option to buy him back and the buyback clause if they want to action it. So that's probably why Liverpool took a reduced fee to the type of numbers they were asking for from Premier League clubs. Maybe they will exercise that buyback clause, but we do now have that confirmation. It's in there from Romano, and the deal encompasses about 35 million all in when the add-ons are taken into account. I don't know anything, Yusuf, about the buyback clause or the dates or times of it, mate. I'm as I said, I've been off the radar for the last couple of days, so I'm playing a bit of catch up here. But all I know is, again, what Romano has said, that the deal is agreed from to go to Leverkusen, 30 plus 5 million in add-ons, personal terms agreed and all that stuff as well. So the next one that I'm concerned about, and again, I want to get your take on it, is the Diaz and Gakpo situation. Because Barcelona are still kind of flirting with the Diaz stuff. Deco's been talking again about that. Bayern Munich are interested in Cody Gakpo. And this piece here from, let me just say who it is. Alto Belli, who the fuck that is, but Anfield Sector have said, Bayern Munich have both Cody Gakpo and Luis Diaz on their list. Cody Gakpo is of particular interest to Max Erbel, but Liverpool won't sell for less than €70 million, which is about £60 million. So I want to ask what you would do. If you were Liverpool Football Club, would you sell for £60 million if you were offered it right now from Bayern Munich? Just for a bit of fun. I'm not trying to hang anybody out to dry. You're more than happy to say yes, no, or whatever. But I just think it'll be an interesting poll to kick us off tonight. So would you sell Gakpo to Bayern for 60 million quid? Right, so let me just type in these answers. So yes, no, or yes, but for more money. Okay. Right, so would you sell Gakpo to Bayern for £60 million? Yes, no, or yes, I would, but for more money. So have a little vote on that. We'll get back to it. And again, I'm not the one trying to say sell Cody Gakpo here. I've said it numerous times on this channel. I would happily have both those gents stay at the club. I like Gakpo. I like Diaz. I'm a happy Liverpool fan if they're in the team at the start of next season. So I'm certainly not wishing them away. But, if the offers come in, we'll have to see what happens. And I really don't know. Diaz, I would say, if the number was met, the club would sell. But with Gakpo, I don't know. I just get the feeling that it would take more to get Gakpo away. It would have to almost be a number that Liverpool think is a silly high number. And I don't think £60 million is that number personally. And of course, he's got that Dutch connection to the squad as well, with Arne Slot, with Virgil van Dijk, with Jeremy Frimpong, with the new assistant manager coming in. So yeah, I don't think personally we sell him at £60 million, but Howard, mate. Who the fuck is Howard? Centre forward worries me. Who's Howard, by the way? Nunez and Chiesa surely going. Not overly convinced by Ekitike or Oshimen. Isak unlikely. Don't see who else is linked. I'm kind of with you on that, mate. I'm not excited by any of these other names either. Like you've mentioned, Isak seems to be unattainable. I'm not convinced by Oshimen. Ekitike is an interesting, but I wouldn't call it a guaranteed success. I'd say there's a probability it will be successful, but I wouldn't say that I think I've seen enough for a long enough period to say that's 100% nailed on success. So that one I'm open to, but the other ones, yeah, like you, mate, it doesn't really excite me, to be honest with you. And thank you, JFT97 Toronto. Appreciate you, bro. Can VVD play on the right and Guehi on the left? Absolutely, yes. There's nothing to say that couldn't happen at all, Oliver. Yeah, Marc Guehi absolutely could move onto the left side, right side. We could swap around 100%. But again, for me, the problem comes with what happens with Ibu. That's the headache for me. Why isn't Jonathan David linked? It can only be for one or two things for me, Matt. Either Liverpool don't like what they're hearing for the signing on bonus and the wages, or they just don't think he's good enough. Again, I can't tell you the answer to that. I'm not inside those transfer talks. But as a fan, I would take him as a secondary option. I wouldn't be happy if we sold Darwin and he was the replacement. But if we sold Darwin and Jota and we brought in, it doesn't matter, just say Ekitike for argument's sake, then I'd happily have him as a backup if Diogo Jota was sold. I just wouldn't want him being the guy, if you get me. I don't think he's the guy for number 9. Just my opinion, though. Bayern have deeper pockets than that. Make them work for it, and they can have him for 85 mil, said Adam Roach. Well, then the third vote for you, sir. Yes, but for more money. I agree, by the way, Adam. I agree. I don't think £60 million is enough to make Liverpool go, ooh, that's a number we can't turn down. Yeah, it's kind of probably near enough his value, but certainly not a number that would make you go, oh, well, hang on a minute here. Now, we could do this, or this with that money. Yeah, we probably have to spend similar to get a similar quality player. So I'm kind of with you on that one. Shane said, I'd not sell our Giraffe Gakpo. Hang on, baby Giraffe was Matip, so he can't be full Giraffe because Joe Matip was bigger. Anyway, just me thinking out loud there. Guehi for me plays every game as he can play both left and right centre back. Konate for that offer would rot on the bench for me. I don't want to speak badly about Konate. I don't because I don't know what's going on, and I really don't want to say that, I'd get rid of him or whatever. I told you what I'd do if I was in Liverpool's shoes and he wasn't agreeing to a new deal very clearly. Well, then we're going to have to sell you this summer, or if he pushes to stay at the club, well, you're going to be in the under-21s for the season, mate, because we got to do what we got to do. So for me, I play hardball there, but I do hope he stays. I just don't know what's going on in it, and I don't know if anybody does, in all honesty. I've read reports that said the talks pick back up at the end of May with Liverpool and his agent. I've read other things that said that Konate and Liverpool just can't compromise on a number, that they're miles away, and truly just don't know what to believe at the minute. So I'm just kind of waiting and seeing what's going to happen. Colin said, Craig, the fan base will not tolerate another look, not just the fan base, the club will not tolerate another player trying to pull a fast one and run down his deal and go to Real Madrid. If this wasn't the World Cup year or a European Championships year, I think Liverpool would be in a lot more trouble than they are now, because at least we have the carrot of the World Cup for Konate, as if to say, like, you want to play in the World Cup? Well, Didier Deschamps ain't going to pick you if you're not playing week in and week out, and you're not going to play week in and week out if you think you're running down your contract and leaving this club for free. So I'm kind of relieved that there's a tournament on next summer, because if there wasn't, I think we'd be in a far weaker position in what is already, in my opinion, a pretty weak position with Konate. And again, you got to ask, how have we let it get to here again? Surely we have to learn some lessons around these. At least with Mo and Virgil, you could look at it and think, right, the club are taking their age into account. The club are wondering if the investment is worth it. But Konate, Gakpo, those type of players, they're right in the sweet spot. You don't want to be getting rid of them at this point in their career unless it's a ridiculous offer or the player kicks up a fuss and wants to go. A lot of players have left on a free under FSG. Maybe it's just how they work. Yeah, there is that possibility, Liam. Like I've said this before as well. Like, let's use Luis Diaz as an example, Liam. I think the club may look at Diaz and go, right, he's been with us now for 3 years or whatever length, 3.5 years, whenever it was. He's 2 years to go. He's not on a ridiculous salary. So maybe the club would look at him and go, well, if he leaves in 2 years for free, we've got the value out of him. We can look at that and think between the wages and the fee, okay, fair enough. But as fans, it's always nicer if you see the club bringing in money, isn't it? If you get and see a player moving on, you certainly don't want them moving on for free. And we got very little money for Mane. Bobby obviously left for free. We've seen Henderson go for a small sum as well. Well, actually, his was a bit higher, to be fair. But I agree. We can't keep having players running down their deals and leaving for free. But like you've also said, maybe it is part of the accounting practices of the business model of the club. Craig, when will we find out Wirtz's shirt number? So I believe the number is 27. But again, I also think you're not going to see the Adidas kits till the 1st of August. And by the way, I've seen this today from a few accounts as an exclusive. That footy headlines say that Liverpool can't use the Adidas stuff till August. I've been telling people that for months. There's no breaking news. And I didn't get it as an exclusive. Like, that's commonly known news. That the August 1st is when the Adidas deal kicks in. Normally clubs would change at the end of June if they're changing over manufacturers. But for whatever reason, it may have been the Kerkez situation when it was New Balance, then Nike. The contract runs until the end of July, so Liverpool can't sell the stuff with Adidas till August the 1st, which leaves it kind of tight for the new season. What I don't know is if we're going to have a pre-sale where, let's say, a couple of weeks before that, you can order it, but it can only be shipped. The way they've done that before as well. Mav, how are we, dude? Slot's proven he can improve a player. Does Ekitike need to be 100% out of the gate? I trust Slot. So the reason I talk about him is mainly because of the price. But we have seen some indications, Mav, that perhaps Frankfurt will take 10 million less. And if the price starts to come down a little bit, absolutely worth the punt. And as you very correctly said, Arne can work with the guy and improve him. For me, it's just a €100 million valuation, knowing that when they sign him from PSG, they sign him for about 13 million. That to me just is the piss take for the price. But if the price starts to become realistic, certainly your calculations of whether it's worth the punt or not would probably change a little bit as well. And again, whatever we think, they have numbers and data and research that goes way past what I or anybody else in the normal realms of football would know. So I get the feeling he's the most likely, is what I'd say at this point. But again, I don't know for a fact he's going to be the one. I'm also interested to see if any of these reports coming out of Italy about the Oshimen swap are correct or not. There's been some reports coming out of Naples and outlets over there that Liverpool offered a straight swap for Darwin and Federico Chiesa for Oshimen, and Napoli wanted something like 15 million on top of the two players. If that's the case as well, you tell them to fuck off, quite frankly. Darwin, the club want about 40, 45 million for him. Chiesa's got to be worth 15, 20 million of anybody's money. So I don't know where they're getting the figures for Oshimen from for the extra on top of it. So I don't know what to believe at this point in time with the forwards. But what we do need to see is obviously Darwin Nunez be sold, and then the process will speed up a bit. Jonathan said, hot take, Diaz is the best finisher in our squad. Yes, even better than Mo Salah. He rarely wastes big chances and is more versatile than Cody Gakpo as well. He's more, the words I would use, Jonathan, is more explosive than Cody Gakpo. That's the kind of phraseology I'd like to think of. But I think between them, we almost have a lovely balance on the left side of options for the manager. Maybe a bit more tactically astute with one, a bit more explosive with Diaz. Diaz seems to be better in and around the penalty area, but Gakpo's better shooting from distance. So I like it. I like both of them. That's why I'm saying I'd never be in a rush to get rid of either of them. But on the finish, Diaz knows where the goal is. I'll give you that. And he scores some very impressive goals. JFT97 said, sorry, it was Howie, mate. See, that makes more sense. You were done dirty by autocorrect. Because when I'm reading messages, sometimes I try to figure out an autocorrect if I see it in there. But I was just thinking, Howard? But anyway, all good. Think to leave Diaz or Gakpo go would need to be for an upgrade, but a fee for an upgrade, more money. I guess what an upgrade is probably in the eye of the beholder. For instance, I've been banging the drum about Anthony Gordon quite a bit because I would view him as an upgrade over Diaz, but I'm not saying he's a better footballer than Diaz. I know, I'll try to explain this. He's got the age on Diaz, so he's got more years in him. The homegrown adds something else to the squad. And his pace gives us something that I don't think we have on the left side between Gakpo and Diaz. I'm not saying they're slouches, but they don't have that light and electric pace. Anthony Gordon also isn't the finished product, so I would expect Arne Slot to improve him if he came in. But yeah, like I said, like Malik Fofana. Right now, is he an upgrade on either of them? Maybe not, but would he be in the future? I guess these are the tough calculations that the club are going to have to put in this summer. But again, appreciate you clearing up the confusion over the Howard stuff. Wayne said, Craig is right, blackmail Konate. Well, I don't think we have to get into the realms of blackmail now, mate. But yeah, I get where you're coming from. You got to play hardball here. You've got to. It's not nice, but the situation isn't nice. And it can be done in a respectful way. Like, you don't have to be as blunt as I am about this, but you got to let it be known. Like, if you want to be sold this summer, we'll facilitate that for the right fee. But if you think you're running down your contract to leave for nothing to go to Madrid, well, then I hope you don't want to go to the World Cup next summer, because you won't be. That's the way I'd be putting it to him. But again, I want him to stay, and I hope we get a new contract sorted out. But, every day I wake up and I'm hoping for news on that one. I'm hoping that Paul Joyce, Romano, Ornstein, Lynch, any of them, I'm hoping somebody comes up with an information, a bit of story, because I don't know what's going on there. And I got really worried when Konate himself came out and said that the talk from these journalists, who were all top-tier journalists, about the contract being close was bullshit, that it was never close. That kind of freaked me out a little, if I'm being honest with you. It really did. If it was one journalist that reported it, okay, fair enough, maybe they got it wrong, they jumped the gun, something like that. But you got Joyce, Romano, and Ornstein. And there's probably more, but they're the three that I know of. And for all of them to have been wrong, I don't know about that. I don't know about that. So something about this just doesn't sit right with me. While I respect everyone's opinion, Gordon ain't it. He'd be an underwhelming addition, especially if you're losing either one of our left wingers. So, okay, let me try and play this out a little bit. So, we'll all agree, I hope, that both of the left wingers that we have now are very good, but also have some limitations. If we can start from that basis, that you might have 8 out of 10 things you like about Gakpo, 8 out of 10 things you like about Diaz, but you don't like all of them of each of them. They both have some different traits. So Anthony Gordon does bring his own attributes to the table as well. And as I said, pace is one of those. Homegrown's one of those. Playing for the badge, one of those. And sometimes a compromise, if it's for the homegrown quota and stuff, kind of has to be made somewhere. And all I can say is the interest is still there, as we've seen pointed out quite a bit. But I totally understand why people might look at him and go, no, not for me. Konate, his agent, someone is being greedy, insisting for that 200k a week. But see, the thing is about that 200k a week story, right? If that's true, it's not very hard to figure out. Like, Konate says, this is my number. I'm not budging off this number. I want this from my next contract. And if Liverpool say no, then Liverpool say no, and you move on in the process. You start to get to, right, well, respectfully, we want you to stay. We value you. We value you at this number, whatever the number is, let's say 150. But we can't go past that because we don't think, oh, fuck off, it's done it again. Sorry, it didn't kick me off this time, but it did say, oh, snap, so sorry. Yeah, so you got to say to him, look, to us, this is fair. If you don't agree with that, no problem. But we'll have to sell you this summer. And you got to go from there. We don't want Gordon. Respectfully, it doesn't matter what you want. Or what I want, for that matter. It matters what Arna wants. And we either trust the manager or we don't. We either trust the process and the recruitment or we don't. So we can all have our own opinions. Ultimately, that's absolutely fine. But when the manager brings in a player, we got to get behind that player. And we got to give the manager a chance to prove he was right or wrong. Because we'll all have opinions. God, fans, we're all full of opinions. That's our job. We get to do that. But Arne Slot will live and die in his Liverpool career by these decisions that they make. So if the manager deems that he wants Anthony Gordon for whatever reason, homegrown quota, anything, we got to get behind it, you know? There's no point in just saying, I don't want him, I don't want him, I don't want him. If it's happening, we got to get behind it. And we got to welcome the player in. If he starts failing, if he's stinking the gaff up, by all means, we can have that conversation to say he ain't doing it. But like any other player that comes to the club, we got to give them the benefit of the doubt. For instance, I'll give you a good example. I didn't want Ryan Gravenberch. I was worried that Gravenberch wasn't going to cut the mustard. I was worried that he's moving around from Ajax to Bayern Munich, didn't get a look at in Munich, and I thought, is that right? But I was wrong. And I very quickly seen when he came in and he started playing, I was wrong. I got this completely wrong. The kid is way better than I was thinking. So, again, these are the professionals. They'll look at it, and if they see somewhere to put him or implement a player into the squad and get more out of him or coach him to a better position, all we can do is get behind him. And look, we have a right to complain if we don't like it. If he's not doing well, by all means. But from the start, whatever the manager goes with, we got to get behind it. Sorry, I'm playing catch up here in a few comments. Excuse me. This one. It makes no sense to keep Konate on the bench if we're trying to win the Premier League, Champions League. Can't be too emotional. It makes absolute sense for me to put him on the bench. So, again, let me play this out for you. In my mind, this is just my opinion. If you allow Konate to do it, you've allowed Trent to do it, and you've allowed Konate to do it, to go to Madrid, and done what? Roll over and have your belly tickled? You look like a laughing stock. So, absolutely, you take that 80 grand a week hit, and you fucking stick it to Madrid, and him, and make a point. It's not being emotional. It's about holding your own as a club and not being a laughing stock and not being weak. And also, there's the other side of this. If we know he wants to go, I am in my arse believing that he's going out there on the pitch and giving it all every week. Not a chance. If he is a niggle, I'm not believing he's going out there to play. I'm not believing he's going out there and putting in 100%. I'm just not. Because he doesn't want to get an injury that's going to ruin that big move for him down the line. So it's not emotional. There's logic behind what I'm saying. But emotion isn't always a bad thing. What's the upside to him staying around? What if he starts having a bad spell? What if he picks up an injury? There's so many things that make me just think, nah, play hardball. Do it. Make a point. Make a stance. Make Madrid know this ain't happening again. That's my take on it. But if you want to be a bit more diplomatic about it, by all means. But you don't get to moan then next summer if he walks for free and we don't buy a centre-back. You don't get to complain about that because you're happy for him to go. You know? And I know my way, if he sits on the bench for a year, but he won't sit on the bench for a year. That's the thing. He won't. He'll either move in January or he'll move this summer because he wants to go to the World Cup. He doesn't want to lose a year out of his career. So, got to play hardball with it. That's my take on it. But again, it is just dialogue, my friend, back and forth. And I appreciate your input on it. But I just don't think it's us being emotional. I think it's just us standing our ground. That's the way I try to explain it anyway. But I appreciate you. Thank you. Bradley said, could be a big week. Kerkez in, centre-back news, and Nunez out. I'll believe Darwin to Napoli when I see the money, if you get me. That's the way I look at it. Whenever an Italian club is in for any player, I always think they're going to lowball, they're going to drag it out, they're going to hope they can get him for next to nothing, or in a loan first with an option to buy. But Napoli have money. They've got that Kavisha Kvaratskhelia money, and if they want to buy Darwin Nunez, then Liverpool shoots them a number and they pay it or they don't. Yeah, that's it for me. Yeah, I hope it is soon though. For everyone's sake. Red Hot Frank said, "Hey Craig, I like how they added a buyback clause on Quansah. Also, I don't want Elliott to leave. He's flying right now in the 21s. Right, so definitely can't disagree with you on Elliott flying with the 21s. But who are you dropping? Honestly, who are you even moving down the pecking order to put him in ahead of? That's the problem with this conversation, I think, because you're definitely playing Florian Wirtz when you paid £116 million for him. McAllister's better than Elliott. Szoboszlai is better than Elliott. And in the manager's mind, at least, Jones is better than Elliott. So you're keeping him for what? Because he's not going to get the minutes he's going to want. It's just not going to be fair on anyone. And I love Elliott. I'm a huge Harvey Elliott fan. But I think this one, especially after the signing of Florian Wirtz, it's a no-brainer that he moves on this summer. Because he's probably 4th at best on that attacking midfielder, advanced position in midfield. At best, 4th choice. That's the way I see it. And if Liverpool can get the money that they're quoting, which is about 40 million quid, I think that's good money as well for a player that we brought in for 8 million from Fulham. So this here from the Standard newspaper in the UK said Brighton are preparing a £40 million bid for Liverpool midfielder Harvey Elliott. If you get 40 million quid for Elliott, who didn't really play last season, I think that's a good deal. And most importantly, I think Brighton would be a great move for Harvey. I think you get more game time there, and I think you do well there. But again, love that you want to keep him, but I just don't see how you can convince him that he's going to get the minutes over the course of the season when he didn't get them last year and you've just brought in another player ahead of him. Donna and Shane, how are we? Said, I'd rather we have Guehi, he makes less mistakes. Than which one? Because if we're talking Quansah, absolutely. It's an upgrade for us bringing in Marc Guehi if we get him in and lose Quansah. I wonder that Liverpool nearly sacrificed maybe a few million quid that they would have valued Quansah at and take a little bit less to insert that buyback clause in. Which is clever, as somebody pointed out as well a moment ago. I do agree, that's clever to put it in there. I didn't know whether they'd be able to negotiate it in or not, but they have. So yeah, good news. If he goes to Leverkusen, tears it out of the park, looked brilliant, Liverpool know they have an option there to bring him back. Harvey Elliott is a role model, a player. He deserves a good move in regular game time. Oh, Tanya, I agree. I think you've worded that beautifully, by the way, my friend. He is a role model and a good guy. A good guy. And Elliott deserves to play. And what our friend said a minute ago as well, about him playing really well with the 21s is also true. Like, he's shown that he is a good player. So he needs to play. And at this point of his career, it's important that he's getting out there and playing. And it's tough, though, because we all love him. Like, we all think, even if you don't think he's the greatest footballer in the world, as Tanya said, he's a good kid. He's a good fella. And he's a Liverpool fan through and through as well. This one from Mitchell, sorry I brought it back up, said, I'm worried for defence, Craig. We need reinforcement. I agree, sir. I agree. That's the position I'm most worried about, and I've said it from the start of the window. Centre-back situation. I like what we're doing there. If we can get Marc Guehi in, Jarell Quansah out, I like that, because Guehi's a bit more ready for the here and now. But if Konate goes, I'm all in on that Nathan Collins thing, by the way. I have to say, I've thought about this so hard over the past 5 days, and I'd be in. You count me in on signing Nathan Collins if Konate goes. Homegrown, I think a steadier footballer. Probably doesn't have the same best. Like, if they're both at their peak, I would say Konate probably better. But I think probably a steadier player who gives away some less niggly fouls in Collins. That would be my take on it. But you're right, Mitchell. I'm worried about our defence as well. Full backs, we're grand. We're sorted there. But centre back, I don't know. If we keep Gomez, I'll be over the moon as well, by the way. Glenn said, what's the story about Robertson? So I've seen mixed reports, Glenn. One report said that he'd given the yes. Another report said he hadn't made his mind up yet. But the most important thing will have to be Atletico Madrid getting to a number that Liverpool will do business at, and 5 million ain't that number. Even on the Echo, when I was reading through, their best guess was 8 to 12 million, which is kind of the ballpark I was in for Robertson, with 1 year on his contract. But yeah, I don't know, because I don't know if he's made a decision yet. Konate is not worth, I think he meant 200 grand a week. Get Collins, said Miley. I'd love to hear Gomez is staying. So would I, Keane. It would make me a lot calmer, even for 1 more year. You know, I know Gomez probably wants to play more. I totally understand that. But if we could get 1 more year of him at the club without an injury and him being able to help across the back line, I think that would serve the club very well. Even if you had to let him go for next to nothing next summer to get him to move, I think 1 more year would help out Arne Slot a lot and give us options. Bro, is Collins Irish? The glazing is crazy. Can I have that in a fucking language I can understand? The glazing. Is he a donut? The glazing. If you want to talk about Collins and have a grown-up adult conversation about a footballer based on some type of metrics or facts, I'm all in, mate. But I don't understand what the problem is. Yes, he's Irish. He's 24. Does that mean he's not good enough because he's Irish? Was Steve Finnan good enough? Was Griffin Kelleher good enough? I don't understand the question. He's a player who has captained at every level he's gone through, be that Stoke at 18 years of age, Cherry Orchard in Ireland before that. Then he, of course, moves on to Brentford, 24 years of age, leader in that dressing room, played every single minute of Premier League football without an injury last season. I don't see the glazing or whatever language you want to use. He's a damn good player. And if his name was Colinaccio and he was Italian, you'd be drooling over the sign of him. So just admit you don't want him because he's Irish and it's not sexy enough name for you, and we can all move along. Because if we're talking about the metrics and anything else, well, you give me the numbers that show he's not good enough and I'll push back and show you the ones that show that he is. And he's homegrown as well. So ticks that box. And admit it. If his name was Colinaccio or an Italian centre defender, you'd be saying spend anything it takes, go get that kid. Facts are facts, mate, and I can see through it straight away. It's just because he's not good enough, you know, because he's Irish. And I'm not saying you don't like Irish people, by the way. Sorry, I don't mean it like that. What I mean is it's not sexy because, you know, it's a lower tiered Premier League move from a fella that isn't a sexy sounding name. Certainly didn't mean to sound anything like you're anti-Irish, Ron. I didn't mean it that way. Right, where are we at? This one from JFT97 Toronto. Would you rather A, Robbo stays, so Costas leaves, or B, Robbo goes and keep Tsimikas for another 2 years at least? So I've always said that I would prefer to keep Robbo for a couple of reasons. One, he'd be playing for his future. So I think you're going to get a good season out of him. He's more experienced, and I think he's a better defender than Costas. And it gives us a year then to see if somebody comes through from underage level that could come in and be a backup or compete with Milos Kerkez. Financially, you get more money for Costas as well. So that's another side of it. But as long as one stays, I'm relaxed about it. I would just personally feel a bit more confident if it was Robertson and he was used sparingly. Because I think it's going to be very difficult to displace Milos Kerkez because the dude's a machine. Like, just an actual machine. So, yeah, I think he's going to be the starter one way or the other. Where are we at? This one. Stevie boy, how are we, dude? Nice to see you. Just read that Diaz could be off to Saudi for 80 million according to Anfield Watch. Is that euro or pound? If it's pound, then fucking that's a good deal. I'm not gonna lie, mate. If you got 80 million quid for 29-year-old Luis Diaz, with 2 years on his contract, I'm taking that. In all honesty, I am. 80 million quid. I'd take that if I was Liverpool. That's enough money to get your interest, in my opinion. 80 million. If it's pound, if it's euro, not so much. And also on the glazing thing, even a donut can never be overglazed, fella. So you know what I mean? More drippy goodness is good in all forms of life, bro. All forms of life. Even if it's a donut. More glazing is better than no glazing. Always a red. What is it that you don't like about Oshimen? Tilt confused? You think I'm confused about people not seeing value in him? I think his attitude would be a possible downside, but talent-wise, how can you deny? I'm not denying it. I can only give you opinion and don't say I don't think he'd be the greatest fit for us. I'm not saying he's a shit footballer. His numbers speak for themselves, but it concerns me that nobody's really kicked down Napoli's door to sign him. You know, we're looking around right now and we're seeing so many clubs, including our own, needing a centre forward. And his name isn't one that's coming up in any of these conversations. United haven't kicked down Napoli's door. Liverpool haven't kicked down Napoli's door. Chelsea haven't kicked down Napoli's door. Arsenal haven't kicked down Napoli's door. Real Madrid, anybody, for a pretty easy deal to do because he's got a release clause. And that, I have to just ask why. You know, I don't know the answer to it, but I got to say why. And I've always found him not one-dimensional, but it just doesn't do it for me. That's all I can say. Just isn't somebody that would get me excited about the signing. I'm not saying you're wrong. There's every chance I'm wrong. But for me, I just don't see it. And I can't explain why. Just one of those things. Has there ever... And by the way, let me say this as well. If we sign Victor Oshimen, I'll be right behind them, wanting them to do well from day one, cheering them on, 100%. I just wonder why clubs haven't done it, because he's available. Has there ever been a bigger fall off than the Serie A used to have the best players in the world and now they have to penny pinch for rejects? When I was growing up, Nick, Serie A was it. That was the league. That was the best league where all the best players were. But I guess like everything else in football, it's cyclical and times change, players move, leagues, television rights all become different. They had some corruption stuff and stuff like that over in Italy that wasn't a good look. I think it's coming back. And by the way, I also think some of the Italian clubs have done some incredibly clever business over the years with some of the deals. But you're right. It's, in my opinion, I wouldn't watch Serie A before I'd watch La Liga, the Premier League, even the Bundesliga at this point. I'd watch ahead of Serie A. Andrew, how are we, dude? Said, do you give Napoli a deadline on Nunez to buy him? Good question. I guess it depends what vibes you're getting off the offers. Like if you're miles apart and it's a derisory offer that you've no interest in entertaining, maybe. If it's something, you know, where we're haggling or you're not a million miles away from each other, you know, maybe start to think, all right, well, we need this through. Or you start to say, look, if we don't get a player sold before this date, we won't have enough time to bring in a replacement, so we can't sell him. You know, go down that route if you have to. And also, there's been talk of Saudi interest in Darwin, but not one club's put their money on the table and given an offer to Liverpool from in this summer window so far. So, yeah, don't want to bite the hand that feeds us potentially either on that one. Love for Music said, sell Ibu ASAP, get Gay and Collins in. The Marc Guehi one's going to be interesting, right? Because Ben Jacobs reported that Marc Guehi won't sign a new contract at Crystal Palace this summer, and his preference is to leave. Now, they're asking a price that I don't think Liverpool are going to want to pay, which is about 50 million quid. So I don't know what happens from here. You know, apparently Liverpool are at 30, 35. They're at 50. Is there common ground? I don't know. But also, if Crystal Palace want to bring in a replacement, well, they can't just say to Liverpool, well, we want you to sign him by this date or we're not selling, because they don't have the luxury of that on this one because he's got 1 year to go. So, yeah, they've got to, they can't sign a replacement without knowing he's gone. So you kind of have to work with Liverpool on this one if that's where Guehi wants to go to some extent, but still don't expect it to be an easy negotiation. Demetrius, how are we, sir? Costa's happy playing 15, 20 games a season. Not sure if Robbo as Scotland captain would be happy with that. And again, if I put myself in Andy Robertson's shoes, I'd take the move to Atletico Madrid. I openly admitted this the other day. You know, if I'm 30 years of age or 31, I'm not sure what age Robbo is, and I've got a young family, and I know that some really good young lads just come in ahead of me in the team, and I've only got 1 year to go on my contract, I'd take an offer of 3 years or so to go play at Atletico Madrid in a slightly maybe slower paced league in a new environment. Especially with the clubs he's had up to this point. Like, it's not like he's had incredibly high profile clubs up to Liverpool. You know, he earned his way to our move. So yeah. And like you've said, Costas as well has said playing 20, 25 games a season for Liverpool means more than playing 35, 40 games a season for lower tiered clubs. So certainly Costas is putting out the noises, Demetrius, that he'd be okay sticking around. Right, let's end this poll. So we asked, would you sell Gakpo to Bayern for £60 million? And unequivocally, the answer is no. 71% said no, 16% said yes, and 13% said yes, but for more money. Or no, I'd want more money. So pretty clear on that one. Now, let's flip this and talk about that Diaz thing that Stevie Boy said. So let me ask this one. Okay, would you sell Diaz for 80 million? So would you sell? Yes, no. Yes, but for more money. Cool. Right, so same thing. Would you sell Diaz for 80 million? Yes, no, or yes, but for more money. Now, if you're asking for more money than 80 million for Diaz, you're being greedy now, in my opinion. But, you know, got to put the same options in. And well done. By the way, very pleasantly surprised to see such overwhelming support for keeping Cody Gakpo, even at a higher price. So, fair play. Are Munich in for Martinelli? So they've been in for Rafa Leao, Nico Williams, Martinelli, Gakpo, Diaz, Wirtz. They've been in for a lot of players this summer, but so far not really gotten one over the line that they want yet. And with all due respect, I like Gabriel Martinelli, but I think he's a tier below what they're looking for. I would have, you know what? It would have been really interesting if Martinelli had have moved to Liverpool in Klopp's time, because we know Klopp was a big fan. I wonder, would he have been better now than he is under Arteta? Or, I don't know, maybe he wouldn't be. But I've often sat there and wondered that, because knowing Jurgen Klopp was an admirer of his. So did I miss? I think I missed the super chat. Sorry, let me scroll. Adam. Sorry, Adam. I thought I'd answered this, mate. My apologies. Hi, Craig. Hope you're well. I would 100% take Guehi, but do we know any of the other targets at centre back? Nathan Collins, like I've mentioned. And then we only know of really media linked players like Arujo from Benfica's name was thrown around. Diamande, interestingly enough, the one that Palace are looking at as Guehi's replacement, was another name that was thrown around. Other than that, not really many, to be honest with you, that I've seen, because it wasn't one of those situations where Liverpool going into this summer was really clear that they were going to need 2-3 centre backs or two top quality centre backs. So I don't think it was really written about that much, in all honesty. Inacio, sorry, yes, Inacio Clive. That's another name that's been mentioned. Yeah, Inacio's a good one. Sorry, mate, I forgot about him. What's this other one? What's this? The Premier League have entered into talks with Chelsea amid Todd Bowley's controversial ownership of the ticketing website Vivid Seats. Blues supporters previously called on the footballing authorities to look into the third-party platform, which had been panned by critics as tickets can be resold for prices far higher than their face value. And I believe the company can't operate in the UK from what I know about that either. This said the price of Liverpool's buyback clause for Jarell Quansah is undisclosed. So Fabrizio Romano said the price of Liverpool's buyback clause for Quansah is undisclosed, but it will be an important figure. So I guess upwards of what they paid there, but again, the price not being disclosed for the clause. I didn't expect it would be, to be honest. Lukeba, Vaughan said, yeah, his name's been roughly linked, but again, it looks like Leipzig are looking for crazy money this summer for any of their players that have been linked with moves away. Like you've had 85 million for Šeško, 70 odd million for what's his face that used to play Xavi Simons, and Lukeba again was talk of 75 million euro for him as well. Palace is trying to buy Diamande to replace Guehi. I know, I've been saying that to you for 3 days now. I've been telling you guys that for 3 days. Which is interesting because he was another player that we would have looked at initially as a potential player. Would I do Leao for Diaz? Look, I will say this to you. Leao is a really good footballer, but he wouldn't work for us. He doesn't work hard enough. Arne Slot would lose his mind if Rafa Leao was playing for Liverpool. He would lose his shit at the lack of tracking back and defending. So yeah, that's why I could never see Rafa Leao at Liverpool under Arne. There's just no way he'd put up with his lack of effort in tracking back and stuff. Branthwaite, he'd be the dream, Saras, but would Everton sell to us? Well, the hope there may come from the Ben Doak situation. If Everton came to us and said, look, we're interested in Ben Doak, what are you saying? If the channel of communication's open between the clubs, certainly be worth throwing it into the mix for a conversation, wouldn't it? But it just seems very, very unlikely, in honest, which is a shame because I really, 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 really do think Branthwaite's a good defender. Who replaces Diaz should we sell? Do you really need me to say Anthony Gordon's name again? That would be my guess. Anthony Gordon, Malik Fofana. Off the top of my head, there'd be 2 names that I'd be thinking of, but most likely Anthony Gordon would be where I would think Liverpool would go to. How good is Guehi? So I would say he's a good defender, yes. He's another leader, by the way, which is important. We've spoken about leadership tonight with Nathan Collins and stuff like that. Marc Guehi would be in that category without any hesitation. The only thing that we've always known that may be counted as a negative was the lack of aerial prowess and the lack of aerial dual success rate. But many other things about Marc Guehi tick a lot of boxes. Very good defender. Apparently brilliant to have around the club. Good influence. Good player. Premier League proven. Homegrown. There's a lot of positives about Marc Guehi. And again, it would be a signing for me that I wouldn't have many concerns about if Liverpool made it. We've only ever spoken about it maybe not happening because of that lack of aerial ability. And is 6 foot, 6'1", so bigger than me, taller than me, but not at the Virgil van Dijk, Ibrahim Konate, Joel Matip size or stature. Craig, has it ever occurred that a club triggered a buyback clause? Oh God, yes, for him, especially in Spain, Madrid and stuff. I've done it a few times. Yeah, buyback clauses have been utilised a bit. I can't really think of too many Prem buyback clauses that have been exercised though. I'm sure there have been, but just off the top of my head, mate, I can't think of too many. Where have we got? This one. LFC interest in going big for Zaire Emery. It's been reported, yeah. absolutely. I was just going to come on to that in a moment, actually. I think it was Graham Bailey reported that Liverpool are eyeing a potential swoop for Paris Saint-Germain youngster Warren Zaire-Emery. Now, this isn't the first time his name has been linked. In my mind, and again, I'm trying to think back, I think Anfield Watch credited maybe with Liverpool having interest in Zaire-Emery previously. And look, I would say that would be an astute move if you want to bring in another player there to compete with Ryan or to give us legs in midfield. I would think Zaire-Emery, certainly when I remember the initial interest or the initial link, I went looking into some of the numbers, and his pressing and his the ground he covers is very impressive. So I would have no concerns again if that's correct and Graham is right there. Wouldn't certainly be complaining if he came in. Wouldn't worry me one bit. Craig Collins or Branthwaite? Branthwaite would be my number one target if I was going out to get a centre back. But I'm just saying, Nathan Collins, and this isn't even an Irish bias, he really just is solid enough that I think he could come into a club like Liverpool and surprise you. Best guess on the size of Konate's or Quansah's buyback. I was trying to think that actually while I was reading out that post a moment ago. I'm gonna say 50 is my best guess, because if you sold him for 30, 35, and you're putting in a clause to buy him back, you're buying him back because he's obviously shown and developed well, and for that the selling club are going to want a premium. So my best guess would be 50 to 55 million would be a guess. This is a good question, Nick, and the answer to it is kind of linked into FSG maybe buying a club like Getafe, who they've been linked with. So you said, do you see Liverpool ever buying young players straight from Brazil or Argentina? Does the recruitment staff value the quality of the leagues? Yes, and we've got a good scouting network. I think Canija, one of the Canija brothers or something, was a scout in South America last time in Argentina, I remember. But it's more the work permit things that are a concern for bringing players into the Premier League now, particularly after Brexit. So I would say if FSG bought the likes of Getafe, that would give you a beautiful little platform to bring a player from South America, drop them straight into a league with a culture they're probably a bit more used to than, say, coming over to England. Let them see how they develop over there for a year or two, and if they work out, Liverpool buy them and bring them into Liverpool. But yeah, you're not the first one to mention that to me about more South American players, and I agree, especially when you see like Mastuano and stuff going to Real Madrid, Vinny Jr., young age going in there, Rodrigo at a young age, Neymar, remember the young age going into Barca. So yeah, I'd love us to get some of that talent at an early age, absolutely. Thank you, Mark. Didn't put a comment there, mate. I don't know if you accidentally hit the send button or anything, but I'll keep an eye out for a comment from you just in case. And said Jonathan Tah, but surely not another Leverkusen. Jonathan Tah's gone. He signed for Bayern Munich. He's a Bayern Munich player now. So yeah, he's gone. Marc Guehi is class on the ball and as an overall defender. Thoughts? Yeah, more than happy, Kai, as I've said. I think he's an upgrade. It's certainly a here and now upgrade on Jarell Quansah, so I'm more than happy with that one. You know, yeah, no concerns for me. I totally get the other concerns about the height that Liverpool have spoken about and journalists have spoken about before, but like you said, many other aspects. And he's solid, and he's developed well at Crystal Palace and got himself into the England team. So won the FA Cup, Crystal Palace this season, as you know. So good, solid business. No complaints from me about it. Would you have a buyback clause for Elliott also? It's an interesting question. It would probably have to be a pretty damn big one. See, if you're wanting the full value and the 40 million quid, I don't know if a club's going to buy that player and give you a buyback clause in it. You're probably going to have to knock the price down by 5 million to kind of tempt them into giving you the buyback clause. And even at that, it's Brighton if we're talking about them going there. So we know how good they are in the transfer market. Like, so I don't know. Probably not, in all honesty. Probably not. Because you do always know at the back of your mind if he's good enough when you put in a bid, he's a Liverpool fan. You still always have that in the back of your mind as well. Joe said, "Evening, Craig. Do we know how much the buyback clause is?" It's undisclosed. Romano posted about it a while ago. So yeah, undisclosed. So for all of you coming in a bit late, let me just run back through this for you. And it was on the Echo, and it was highlighted as Konate to Real Madrid, promise in inverted comma. So Ibrahima Konate is attracting interest from Real Madrid and new manager Xabi Alonso. According to Defensa Central, Florentino Perez has promised Alonso that if Liverpool are willing to sell Konate for £26 million, the defender will come. Do I think Liverpool sell him for 26 million? Not a fucking chance. None. Zero. If they sell him this year, they're going to want at least 10 million on top of that. Maybe more. So if that's what Florentino Perez is thinking, Liverpool won't sell him for 26 million quid. Not a chance. So, yeah. If Real Madrid want him, they're probably going to have to go up another 10 million there. Real Hertz edit said, "Craig, Diaz or Gakpo?" I will always go for the younger player in these scenarios. So Gakpo, because he's got more development ahead of him. So yeah, Gakpo in that, because I think he still has potential to keep developing. Whereas Diaz is 29 now, doing really well. Really enjoyed him at the end of the season, but I would go with Gakpo. Branthwaite or Murillo? For me, Branthwaite. But again, you're talking about two players there that if Liverpool signed either, you're probably not too unhappy. But for me, Branthwaite. Would you sell Diaz for 80 million was the poll we put up. And, ooh, interesting. So we'll leave it run a little bit longer. We'll try and get to 2,000 votes. So the question is, would you sell Diaz for £80 million? Yes, no, or yes, but for more money? LFC Spectre said, "Time for us to play hardball towards Konate and Real Madrid. Plus, I see Alonso struggle at Madrid since they expect to win trophies. Big task for a young manager like Alonso." Yeah, but he would have known that before he went in there. It's a big task. I don't think this is the greatest Real Madrid squad in the history of football either, by the way. I think there's a lot of egos in that dressing room that Alonso's going to have to temper down. You look through that Real Madrid team and, up top, yeah, there's some stellar names there, but it's not an uberly frightening Madrid team to me. So, and whatever happens with Alonso, Madrid don't really keep managers for more than 3 years anyway. So, even if you're doing well, you're probably going to last 3 or 4 years at Madrid before you're gone. Sam said, "Tuesday, Kerkez medical." Yes, sir. It's going to be an exciting day. Cannot wait for Milos to come in. Right, so let me fly through a few bits of the news that we have in case you're coming in a little bit late. And there will be a news update video coming up at about 11:15. So we got the "Here We Go" from Fabrizio Romano to say Liverpool, Bayer Leverkusen, Liverpool, "Here we go, Jarell Quansah, 30 plus 5 million in add-ons. Liverpool have a buyback clause should Quansah leave Leverkusen." Again, though, we don't know what that clause number is. Then we reported Anfield Sector posted, quoting at Alto Belli, as in ALTOBELLI 13, "Bayern Munich have both Cody Gakpo and Luis Diaz on their lists. Cody Gakpo is of particular interest to Max Erbel, obviously the Bayern sporting director, but Liverpool won't sell for less than €70 million. Then we had Ben Jacobs saying, Crystal Palace make decision on £50 million Ace exclusive. Marc Guehi won't sign the new contract at Crystal Palace, and leading to a club preference to sell this summer. Guehi is seeking game time if he moves ahead of the 2026 World Cup. Then we had the quotes from Frimpong about replacing Trent. He said, "Big shoes, but it's Liverpool. It's a team who win trophies for a reason. If you play for Liverpool, you have to fill in the shoes and perform. I've always believed in myself. I'm a winner. That's what I'll bring." I have to say, to anybody that watched that little interview with him, I love when he says, "You understand." So he'd say something to the reporter and he'd say, "You understand?" I love that. I love the swagger and the confidence that eludes from Frimpong. I think the man just knows he's good. I love it. Honestly, I've been really enjoying hearing Jeremy speak since he's come into the club. Yeah, dude just has a swagger and he has confidence and he speaks really highly about Wirtz, not only as a footballer, but also as a friend and a colleague and a teammate. Said the man just lives for big moments, big pressure moments. He's ice, he's cool, he's it. So yeah, I've loved it. I've loved hearing Frimpong talk. Sean said, looking forward to seeing Frimpong in action. He seems a nice lad, and I certainly think he's going to be a success. Agree 100%. He knows what stature of a club he's at. He knows what it's going to take here, and he's ready for it. And it was beautiful seeing him share those moments with his family as well. His dad's a Liverpool fan. It was heartwarming stuff to see. It really was. And yeah, can't wait to see him in pre-season. Can't wait to see how he gets on. And hopefully be a great signing and many good years ahead of us. So, Mr. Real Johnny Sins, how are we, dude? He said, if Diaz goes, we must upgrade to Rodrigo Gordon shite. I very much don't think we're going to sign Rodrigo. I just don't think that's a runner in any way, shape or form. Think about the fact we're probably going to clash heads with Madrid this summer as well with the Konate situation. I can't see the Rodrigo thing being a runner at all. Joe Ambrose said, who starts more games, Frimpong or Bradley? It's a belter of a question, dude. I don't know if Arna's made up his mind yet, if he's going to give them both pre-season. It's going to be interesting to see. I'm probably going to edge with Frimpong, but remember, Bradley signed a new deal and he was told that he's going to get the chance to prove himself and fight for that spot. So it's just a good situation for me. You know, you've got 24-year-old, a bit further developed, and then you've got Bradley, and I love both of them. I think they give us two very good options. One maybe a little bit more attack-minded than the other, but Bradley, again, with an incredible engine like Frimpong, it's just good business. We needed to replace some of the creativity we lost from Trent, and we go and bring in Frimpong, Wirtz, and we often speak about relationships on the pitch as well. Well, these guys have played with each other at Leverkusen, and yeah, you're going to know what type of movements and where the likes of Wirtz wants the ball, what his checked runs are, how late he breaks. So many things like that excite me about this season. Michael Murray said, any news on a striker? Not really, bro. Not really. There's been a lot of guesswork, Is it going to be Ekitike? I think at this point, we can safely rule out Isak. I feel like that the numbers there are just getting into the realms of ridiculousness. So, Ekitike, Oshimen, they're the two kind of fringe names, if you want to say that. Outside of that, I really don't know. And I did a video last night where I posed the question, will we bring in a number 9? Like, if the club don't feel that they can get the guy, maybe we keep Jota. Maybe we bring in another versatile forward like we've spoken about in the past who can play right across the front line. Maybe we don't play with a number 9. Maybe we play with a false 9. Maybe Diaz shift back inside. I really don't know. But I don't want Liverpool settling at number 9. If Arne Slot has 3 names, you can get one of them 3, brilliant. But I don't want to start looking down that list and just thinking we have to spend for the sake of spending in the position that we need to upgrade in. I just don't know, in all honesty, what to expect with the centre forward position at the minute. Voltmader's name has been linked tentatively. If I was a guessing person, I'd kind of say Ekitike would be the most likely, but again, I am guessing. Where do you think we need to strengthen, said Lee? Centre back, Lee, I think we need to strengthen there. And look, ideally up top. They're the 2 positions left. We need to talk about what cover for Ryan Gravenberch looks like. Does it look like Stefan Bajcetic? Does it look like Endo? Or does it look like a new signing like, I don't know, Angelo Stiller or Warren Zaire Emery? But I'm genuinely happy with any of those answers either. If the manager wants to give Stefan this season and thinks he can compete and, replace Gravenberch on occasion, happy days. I like him. I think he's a good young player. If the manager wants to dip into the market and bring in somebody, brilliant as well. But what we can't have is the amount of games being played by Gravenberch that he played this season. We got lucky that he didn't pick up a serious injury. He played too many games. So I do think we need to take 10-15% off his workload. AJ said, from a person who watches Bundesliga weekly, Ekitike is a great player for Liverpool, but not 100 million. Well, there has been some inklings and some little murmurings that they are potentially willing to drop down a little bit on that price to maybe from about 10 million less. So 100 million is the euro price. So let's say 85 million pound. If they bring that down towards 70, I think there might be a deal in there to be had somewhere. Escapado said, we ain't signing Kerkez and Frimpong and not signing a 9. Well, if the right 9 isn't out there, mate, who are you going to sign? That's all I'll say. Like, we still don't know where Wirtz is going to operate. And I agree with you. I want a 9. I'm sure Arno wants a 9. But I want a 9 that's going to be better than what we have. And I want a 9 that we're not going to regret again. Because we've rolled the dice on Darwin. And for whatever the reason you feel most comfortable admitting to yourself, it hasn't worked out. And we can't do that again. So I think we need to go and get somebody who we really 100% think is the guy. And if we can't get that, maybe we give Jayden Danns a season. Maybe we buy ourselves a bit of time and play Diaz centrally, Salah centrally, Jota centrally. Maybe we play with a false 9. But again, don't forget Jayden Danns. He just needs to make sure that he can get that season where he has a run with no injuries and can get minutes in his legs, because he could be that guy in the future. Rory said the data analysts will have figured out which number 9 to buy. Yeah, absolutely. I'm sure there is a list. Just at this moment in time, everyone's just kind of guessing, because one, we have to see what happens with Darwin and what money we bring in. And we also have to keep an eye on the centre back situation and what happens there. Oh, by the way, did I see that Creevy and Kelleher got engaged? If he did, wow, congrats. What a wonderful life moment for him when he got that move now to become a number 1 at Brentford. I'm sure I've seen a picture of him proposing. So yeah, congratulations to Creevy and his fiancée. Who we got a better squad, City, Liverpool or City? Us, Paul, in my opinion. Hand on heart, no banter, us. Genuinely think we've a better squad. Or if we don't, we will have by the end of the summer. I look at their business and it feels like the roles have been reversed here a little bit. And City are having to mop up leftovers. So I read a really good piece yesterday on Ryan Cherky and how he has been hyped beyond fucking recognition at this point, from a player who every club in Europe knew was available for quite a while. And now all of a sudden, he scores one good goal in a little cameo for France in a game, and all of a sudden we're being robbed for Wirtz and Ryan Cherky's that guy. He's not. And if he was, he'd be at Liverpool because he wanted to come to Liverpool. So I look at their business and I feel, Yuri, he's not Kerkez, is he? He's a good player. He is, but he's not Kerkez. That's who they wanted. Szoboszlai they wanted. Guess where he ended up? At Liverpool. Wirtz he wanted. Guess where he ended up? At Liverpool. So for me, I feel like the roles have been reversed. There's no certainty at Manchester City for 2 reasons. 1, the charges, and 2, Guardiola. You don't have the certainty with Pep Guardiola. You don't know if you sign a 4 or 5 year contract if he's going to be there in 2. So we have this new manager, League One, money coming in, good signings, probably a new contract for Arne very soon, and it's the stability that we can offer that they can't. Anything in a John Duran loan? It's something, Chris, that we've discussed on the channel quite a bit and would be my solution if we couldn't buy a striker. I would far prefer to bring in John Duran on loan, maybe with an option, to give us that cover for a year whilst we wait to see what's going on with Jayden Danns. But that is only if Liverpool can't find the one that they want. This one. Kem said, be careful with too much change. Sorry, mate, it's not coming up on screen. There we go. It's not coming up. Yeah, there we go. Be careful with too much change. Keep our best players like Gakpo and Diaz. Sell the fringe players. Sign a centre-back and a striker. I'm with you, my man. I'm with you. Like I've said multiple times, I have never understood this conversation about Diaz and Gakpo moving on. We've got that position boxed off. Don't see the need to do anything with it. And also we've young Rio coming through in a year or so as well. Lewis Kumas, who's still to be thought of as a future prospect. So, yeah, the future's bright. And at least we're doing this now from a strong position. And that excites me. Virginia said, yes, Kelleher's now engaged. That's cool. Delighted for him. Lovely time in his life, I'm sure. Going to establish himself as a number one. Got engaged. Wish him nothing but the best. What do you think the problem with Ibu? Is he asking for too much? I don't want to throw Ibu under a bus and make him sound greedy or anything, because, like I said, I'm not inside the conversation. I don't know what's going on. All I can say is, if the reports, and again, they are just reports, suggest that he wants £200,000 a week, and he's currently on about £80,000 a week, has he improved 150% since he's come to Liverpool? Even if you want to play the inflation card and the wage has gone up a bit, fair enough. I'll give you 20% for your inflation conversation. But has he more than doubled his ability since he's come to Liverpool? Respectfully, I'd say no. He's improved. I think he's 140, 150 grand a week defender. I just don't think he's worth that extra 50 grand a week personally. But I can't say what the conversations are, and I don't want to do Ibu dirty because, you know, he's just come out and said that the reports previously about him turning down an offer or being close to an offer were bullshit. So I don't want to throw him under a bus. But, you know, right now we just don't know. Liverpool dodged the bullet with Caicedo. Turned down Liverpool to win the Conference League. Very overrated player. I think Caicedo's a really good player. Look, the way it worked out for us worked better. You know, we got to rebuild the midfield. We've now brought in Wirtz. So, you know, I'm not trying to turn back time or anything, but yeah, I would respectfully slightly disagree with you, mate. I think Caicedo's a really good player. But is he a £115 million player? No, probably not. Everybody was having to overpay there. But moving from 80 to 200 is crazy business. It's nuts. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's 150% pay rise. I just don't see it. I don't see 150% improvement in him since he's come to the club. 180k a week for Chiesa was on 150. So slightly different situations. Chiesa was brought in for a far lower price. And I think he was on a tiny bit less, but I'm not going to fall out with you over the few quid difference I'm thinking about. But he's also at a different stage of his career. He's far more established than Ibrahima Konate is. Has far more international minutes, has had more experience at the bigger level. So he would command that, especially when coming in for a very knockdown fee. Craig, Van Dijk and our fullbacks make Ibu look good. So, like, let me put it this way. If I could give Ibu a score out of 10 and say Virgil's 10, I'd have Ibu as 6.5, 7 would be my score for him. He gives away... I think he can switch off mentally sometimes. I think he gives away too many free kicks. I think he's underrated for how good he is with the ball at his feet and his ability to pass. I do think he's underrated for that. Recovery pace is good, decent enough. Physically or aerially, very good. Not as good as Virgil, but still good. There's just mistakes in him that I think always concern me. Always feels like he's a potential penalty to give away, a potential red card, and certainly gives away way too many close contact free kicks where he just doesn't give himself half a yard. He's too touch tight to the player and they're buying free kicks, and it pisses me off time and time again. Craig, hope you're well. Luis Diaz is a baller, but no finishing product. He's not the Mane replacement. He's had his best season, I think, numerically. If I'm wrong on that, I apologise, but I have a memory of him having his best season numerically. But I don't know what to say because I really haven't got a Scooby-Doo what's going on with him. I just think unless a really good offer comes in, why would we be upsetting ourselves by moving on players from a position that we've boxed off and we've two very, very good options in? I don't think why we create a headache for ourselves when we've got Gakpo and Diaz, two good players. Right, so thank you to everyone that's voted. We've now gone over 2,000 votes. So we've nearly 2,400 votes. The question is, would you sell Diaz for £80 million? 72% said yes, they would sell Luis Diaz for £80 million. No, 21%. And yes, but for more money, 6%. Thank you to everyone that voted in that as well, by the way. Appreciate you. Craig, what do you think the future of Endo is at the club? Carabao Cup games, 5-10 minutes at the end of a game to see it out when we need to shore it up a little bit. That's it, pretty much. But he knows that. And, I think Endo has won the manager over. I really do think over the course of the season, with his professionalism, his honesty and accepting his situation and what's happening, he's had a great club and he's living his dream. And of course, any footballer would want more minutes. But he's loved by all of us. He's playing for the Premier League winners. He's a wonderful fella, a great example to any kid as well, and a model professional. It must be a dream to have him in the changing room and on the training pitch. And if he, accepts his place in the squad in limited minutes, happy days. Brilliant. He's an absolute role model of a fella and a legend of a fella. Every time Endo opens his mouth in an interview, I find myself loving him more. There's never any sour grapes, never any bullshit, never any drama. Just a smile, a great attitude, professionalism, honesty. He's just a good dude. Honestly, all around just a damn good dude. And I only want the best for him. So if he wants to stay, we'll continue loving him. And we'll continue being excited to see him out there. And if he wants to move on and get more minutes, I think we'd understand that as well. But yeah, he's a good man. A good, honest, solid pro. How many trophies can you see us winning next season? It's a tough one because I'm never arrogant enough to just say, yeah, we're going to win this because it's tough. But I'll also admit, with the calibre of signings we've made and the investment and the fact we're coming off the back of a Premier League winning season that we haven't had to go and play in the Club World Cup, yeah, it'd be a damn disappointment if we didn't have one of the two big ones next season. The bookies have us favoured for the Champions League, last I checked, which is a nice little nod considering what Paris Saint-Germain achieved. But we've got unfinished business in that one. So, yeah, I think any one of the two big ones next year, obviously more Champions League progression than this year, and I'd be good. If you ever end a season with one of the two big ones, you've had a great season. If you can end it with one of the two big ones and another little one, brilliant. If you can end it with the two big ones, well then, happy bleeding days on that one. What number will Kerkez wear? Ooh. Do you know, I don't know, mate, off the top of my head. I don't know. I think, let me see if I still have this post. I had a post a while ago that had every available number. Bear with me. The Echo, actually, in fairness to them, put that post out listing every available number. Let me just scroll back a few days and see if I have it in my notes. By the way, I love that this is the calm before the storm of next week again, where we get to see, Milos come in, do his medical and get unveiled. It's going to be class. Right, so numbers that are available: 6, 12, 13, 15, 16, 22, 23, 24, 25, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 62, and 66. So they're numbers that are available at the minute. Now, obviously, if players depart, more numbers become available. What would I guess? I'm going to guess 12 or 13 maybe. But see, the reason I'm guessing 12 is he's a left back. So 1 plus 2 is 3. And 3 is the left back number. So that's why I'm guessing at the 12. Rumours have Kerkez wearing 13. Well, it's available. It's definitely available. So, yeah, it's available. And again, if 9 is freed up. So let me ask you a question, right? If 9 is freed up and Diaz stays, would you give Wirtz the 9? Because he deserves a big number. And I know he wants 27. But if Darwin moves on and the 9's available and we don't bring in a striker, would you give him the 9? Because I'd like to see somebody have it. I'd hate to go a season with nobody wearing the number 9. Personally, an ideal number would be 7. But that's Lucho's number. So, if Lucho departed, I'd say give him 7. But what someone said definitely not. Why definitely not? I can understand, but definitely not? Why not? Like, who would you give the 9 to? You couldn't have it going with nobody for a season, right? And sorry, I only call you up on it because it's a very strong opinion of, you said 100, absolutely not. Why so strong on the opinion? Keane said Wirtz in the 9 just feels wrong. Don't know why. Look, I can understand that. And look, if he takes 27, if that's the number he wants, absolutely grand as well. 9 should be a striker number, not an attacking midfielder. What if he's playing in the false 9? Does your mind change then? Again, I'm just being a shithouse here, mate, pushing back on you. What if he played in the false 9? Do we change that opinion then? 9 for Oshimen, said Spencer. 27 for Wirtz. 3 for Kerkez. Endo take a different number. No, for me, you'd never ask any player to give up the number when you come into a club. Unless you are Messi or Ronaldo, I don't think you ask anybody to give up a number when you come to a club. I just feel like that's not Liverpool behaviour, in all honesty, for anybody to come in and say, if a player offers it up, like we've seen in the past, sometimes the player's not that fussed with their number. So if he offers up 3, here's one. Give Endo 6 and give 3 to... you could do it that way. Offer Endo up to 6, which is a number for the position he plays in. So maybe he'll give Endo the 6 and then move Kerkez to the 3. Yes, Jose. Exactly like my friend Jose in the chat just said there. Jose Solizano said Endo 6, Kerkez 3. Yeah, that, my man, that's smart, in my opinion. Oh, Guehi wears 6. Oh, you see. Good shout, Shane. See? Shane's just made a very good point, though. If Marc Guehi wears 6, he probably takes the 6. That's a good shout, lads. Well played. Good shout. Yeah, Marc Guehi could take that 6. That's a very good shout. In fact, probably will if he comes in. Who wears 2? Who wears 2 at the minute? Who wears 2? Gomez, doesn't he? Does Gomez wear 2? I haven't seen him in that long. I think it's 2. It is Gomez, yeah. Cool. Did Gomez have 12 before that? Before he moved to 2, was it 12? So we hadn't seen Joe for so long this season with an injury. Generally, it went out of my head. Because in my head, yeah, he did wear 12. Yeah, because I still see him with the number 12 in my head on the back of his shirt. Firmino gave up his 11 to Salah and then Bobby took 9. Yeah, but you're getting 9 now with that, Virginia. That's a pretty damn good swap, though. You give Mo, the great man, his 11 and you're taking 9. So, and Bobby was a 9. Bobby was my 9. I gotta say, Bobby was my number 9. I love that man. Maybe Jota takes 9. Maybe. At his new club. Do you remember Phillips and Williams as a pair in 2020? Yes, I do. Look, I'll always have respect for Nat Phillips. I'll always have respect for the man. But it was never somebody I thought had a long-term future at the club. But he helped us out a lot, and he's been a model pro. And I think, he's as honest as the day is long. He gives it his all out there. But yeah, I was never convinced he was quite good enough. Have I seen the latest Alisson documentary? So I haven't seen anything this week because I've been out and about with Brian for the last couple of days. We went to Mullingar. So I went on a pilgrimage, but a chocolate pilgrimage. So we went to Mullingar yesterday. We brought Brian and his brother and his brother's partner. We brought them over to Mullingar. We went to Loughnell. We went into Mullingar town. And I was stopped for loads of photos of Mullingar town, which freaked me out a little bit. I didn't think people in Mullingar would know me. But then we went into my favourite chocolate shop that I get the Dubai bars in. They're based in Mullingar. So I went in and I bought 15 Dubai bars because they're fucking incredible. Introduced Brian to the Dubai bars. He'd never had one because they're not really a thing in the States. And he couldn't believe how good they were. So we did that. And then today we were down in, we brought him around Gorey a little bit where I live. Then we moved and we went down to Wexford Town today and we spent some time down in Wexford Town and we showed him around there, had a bite to eat, and then brought him back up. So yeah, I've been busy for the last 2 days, showing Brian around, and of course going on that chocolate pilgrimage. Toby said, I've just joined the live. What's the news with Gakpo? So the news is, my man, that Bayern Munich are interested. Max Erbil's a big fan, and this piece at least said that Liverpool are asking 70 million euro. Now, we asked the chat, would they take 70 million euro or 60 million pound? And absolutely no was the answer. I think it was about 72% said no. Always thought most shocking transfer was not signing Anelka. Yes, Sam. Bloody yes. That's still to this day, Sam. I can't get it. Came in on loan. I think had a pretty good season. And we didn't take it up for, I believe, £12 million, if my memory's right. That is one transfer, Sam, that to this day still makes me angry. I agree with you 100%. How on earth we signed El Hadj bloody Juff and didn't make Nicolas Anelka a permanent deal, I will never understand. Never. Craig, is Hendo a club legend? Yes, he is. I hated the way he left, and I stand my ground on everything I said about the way he left. But the man was a class captain, and the man was a leader, and the man won us the Premier League trophy and the European Cup. The man is a legend. He's a Liverpool captain that has won the two big ones. That puts him as a legend in my book. And while he was here, until that episode when he was leaving, he was a brilliant leader, a great representative of the club, a hard worker, and a good example for people to just keep working, keep chipping away. He could have been sold for Clint Dempsey to Fulham years ago, stayed, fought for his place, and then lifted the European Cup and the Premier League. So, yeah, for me, as much as I really got angry at that situation, when you look back on it, Jordan Henderson's a legend, absolutely. But I'm standing over every word I said when he was going. He absolutely threw his toys out the pram and lied through his gritted teeth about the reason he was leaving, about it being to grow the game. That never, ever will I admit that any, not pushing back on that one bit. He left for selfish reasons, and he left because he wasn't guaranteed enough time. But, now that he's gone long enough and feelings are a bit calmer, yeah, definitely a club legend, definitely. Is VVD a club legend? Yes. Yes, of course. So, in the current group, VVD, legend. Alisson, legend. Salah, legend. I don't think that's even debatable in the current group. Robertson, maybe not quite legend status, but absolutely loved and idolised by everybody. But, you know, we're talking about our club, and what we call a legend is a Kenny Dalglish, a Steven Gerrard, a Mohamed Salah, a Virgil van Dijk. They're legends. Robbo's a fan favourite and a great, great player at our club. Don't know if I'd put him up to the legend category. I don't know. We've got Phil Thompson, Graham Souness. I don't know. He's close. If he's not a legend, he's pretty damn close. As Muckrab said, Robbo's very, very close. Yeah, he is. Look, I've nothing but love for Robbo. Again, I often come back to that social media post not crying, sorry, that's not fair. Complaining about no job and, you know, no football career ahead of him. And to think that young man buckled down, worked his ass off, went to Hull, got his move to Liverpool and delivered what he delivered. That you don't do that unless you're a very strong-willed person with just a great temperament, a great work rate and a great belief. And for that, Robbo deserves every bit of praise he ever gets. And also, you could not want to go out on a night out with him either. Do you know what I mean? If you're having a party, you're going out for dinner and you're bringing Robbo. You know what I mean? You're bringing Andy Robertson along 100%. Hendo does a great trophy lift though. He does. The Hendo shuffle was legendary. Absolutely. No argument to me on that one. The Hendo shuffle was class. Would I consider Mane a legend? I'd probably put him in that Robbo category of just below, but an excellent player at our club who I loved watching. So I'd probably put him a little bit below legend though. Just a little bit. But again, icon. Let's go. We'll give him icon. I don't know if he's legend, but we'll give him icon status. What about Genie? No, not a legend. Not a legend. Not a legend. Underrated would probably be what I would say for Genie rather than legend. I don't think he ever got the plaudits that he probably should have gotten for his time. Adrian said, what's everyone's first Liverpool memory? Mine was Emre Can's bicycle kick versus Watford. I'm trying to think my very first time I ever really seen anything of Liverpool. Do you know what? It's either that Arsenal game or Hillsborough. One of those two are probably my first memories of anything Liverpool. So I didn't grow up in a house where football was on all the time or anything like that really, because I'm an only child. My dad wasn't that into football when he was younger. I didn't really have a club that he die-hard supported or anything. So yeah, it was probably that game against Arsenal where we lost 2-0 to win the league, where they won the league title at Anfield, or Hillsborough, unfortunately. I also have actually, no, hang on. I'm thinking of where I was. I have a recollection of that FA Cup replay against Everton. You know, there was 2 or 3 replays in a row. And they ended up winning, I think, by 1. Was it 4-3 or something in the last game? I was so young then, but I have a vague recollection of that being reported on the news or something. Watching a live game at Anfield for the first time and Gerrard scored boomer half volley. Nice. Mine was a 1-0 game. Ian Rush scored the winner on my first Anfield trip as a kid. I went over with my football team. They organised a trip over to Liverpool and to Tranmere. And seen Ian Rush score and we won 1-0. Craig, Mane is a legend. Again, Finn, these are opinions, bro. Nothing carved in stone. The amount of holes he got us out of, I think people forget. I don't forget. I just use the word legend very sparingly when you're talking about a club with probably a lot more legends than a lot of other football clubs. Like, when we're talking about legends, we can't just talk about our lifetimes. We've got to go back and talk about Phil Thompson, Emlyn Hughes, Kenny Dalglish, Graham Souness, you know. we can't just think everyone's a legend. Mike, you can't have more than 15 or 20 legends. So it's just the way I look at it. And I think you got to nod and go back to all those, to the Ray Clements of this world, as well. Ian Callaghan. When you're talking about legends, I think we can't just look very close this day and age. Phil Neal, yeah, like our club's won a lot of shit with a lot of great players who we weren't around to see. So yeah, exactly. Hansen, Loro, you know what I mean? We've been blessed as a football club that we've had some incredible players throughout the history of the club that have lifted us on to amazing things. Love this one. Sam, thank you, my man. Appreciate you. I was looking at your profile pic on, oh, dude got married, and then I realised it was the Bellingham and Trent one. But I appreciate you, Sam. Thank you. Harris as well. Thank you, mate. Appreciate you as always, sir. How many centre-backs should we sign? So with the fact that we're going to sell Quansah, mate, I would say 2. Even if Konate stays, I would say 2. Even if one of them's young. But if Konate goes, then it's going to have to be minimum 2. Adrian said, what's everyone's first memory years was the Emre Can bicycle kick. But do you know what I remember about that Emre Can bicycle kick? That Lucas Leiva set him up. That's what I remember for it. Because I was a big Lucas Leiva fan. I named my son after Lucas Leiva. I have a signed Lucas Leiva shirt that I have up for my son for when he gets a bit older, so I can give him the signed shirt, and say, this is who you were named after. So I remember that it was Lucas Leiva that set up Emre Can for that bicycle kick against Watford. That was my weird memory of that one. Just arrived to the stream. What's with Guehi? So it looks like he's not going to sign a new deal at Crystal Palace, according to reports. One report in the Standard said that he's decided to leave Crystal Palace. Another report said that Liverpool are interested in Crystal Palace centre-back who has 12 months left on his contract. Palace asking price will determine whether Liverpool move now or look to pull a Real Madrid and sign him on a free. And then there was another report that said, one sec, bear with me, that said, where was it? There was one more somewhere. Sorry, I don't have it in my notes now at the minute. But yeah, basically Liverpool interested, and he's told Palace no new deal, and both sides have decided that ideally they'd like to leave this summer. Where was the other one? There was one. Oh, this one, yeah, from Ben Jacobs. Marc Guehi won't sign a new contract at Crystal Palace, leading to a club preference to sell this summer. Guehi's seeking game time if he moves ahead of the World Cup in 2026. Real Johnny Sin said he's the best fullback the club has ever had. Most assists by a defender in the Premier League. Was best left back in the world sometime. Defo a legend, no debate. Disagree that he was the best fullback the club ever had. Disagree on pretty much most of what you've written there. Not a legend in my book. And for you to say no debate, I find that, in all honesty, I find it disrespectful. Because it's like your words, gospel, and that's it. The rest of our opinions don't matter one jot. So respectfully, mate, and I've never really pushed back, there is a debate. Of course there's a fucking debate. Everybody's entitled to opinion. And when we're talking about something that isn't definable, that isn't mathematically quantifiable, of course there's a debate. If there's no debate, what's the point in being a football fan? You know, you've got to be able to debate these things and have a bit of fun with it. So you've given your take and you said legend, no problem. But the no debate part, bit unfair. Winning the Prem, playing against City in the last game of the season, or winning the Champions League final against Madrid. Winning the Champions League final against Madrid, fuck Manchester City. And I mean, there's not even respect intended there. Just, yeah, Champions League against Madrid, definitely. Now, if you had said win the league title against United, maybe I'd have looked at it a bit differently. But City, to me, are just a pumped-up, oil-rich Wigan. That's the way I look at them. Luis Garcia is the first, or excuse me, he's a little magician for me, though. Yeah, but we often look back on these things, right? So, an example, John Arnorisa. A lot of people look back on him and talk about him being this brilliant player. Oh, it's not what I remember. I remember him being good, but I remember him taking pot shots that pissed me off, that were sailing over the crossbar way too many times. So I think we all have some probably overly emotional reaction to look back on certain players. And Garcia was another one of those players who created these incredible moments of magic, but could be incredibly frustrating at the same time. Craig, got any takeaway suggestions? It depends what you're feeling. If you're really hungry, Chinese. You know, Chinese is the go-to if you want a good feed. Or pizza. You know, one or the other. Chinese or pizza would be my two. Would I put Bobby in Legend? Yeah, I would, but just because I'm a Bobby Firmino fanboy. So, yeah, I'd put Bobby Firmino in the Legend category, but probably not for the same measurable reasons I would put others in there. I'm just an unashamed Bobby Firmino fanboy who loved the swagger. I just loved everything about the dude. I just thought he was a character. He just did it all, you know. I fucking love the man. I love him to bits. Who's the player you hated the most in our team? El Hadj Diouf. Easy. No question. El Hadj Diouf. Closely followed by Paul Konchesky. Yeah. And then maybe I never really liked, what's his name, Sander Westerveld either. Could never really take to him. Every red who's seen Bobby is a fanboy. He's just amazing, isn't he? You know what I mean? Showing up in a furry jacket, a pair of Crocs and a baseball hat. That is my centre forward. That is my guy. And do you know what I loved as well? I loved that nobody else outside of Liverpool fans got Bobby Firmino. They just didn't understand what we seen. And because we seen him every week, and they only seen him maybe when we play against them. But we seen what Bobby Firmino did. The dirty work. And he was appreciated for that. As well as the swag and the flashy goals and the no look. He did the hard yards to give Mohamed, to give Sadio those bits of space, the creativity. He tied it all together. And he pressed like a machine. Bobby Firmino was incredible. Stan Collymore is a proper legend. It's nice to see Stan's family in the chat, isn't it? Look, I like Stan Collymore for what it's worth. Good player. Probably didn't get the best out of his career, but a good player and somebody, you know, somebody who I think I'd have an interesting chat with if I sat down. Keane said, I don't think I've ever loved a man as much as Bobby. I still don't think I've gotten over him. Every day, as I say to you, I have a painting of Bobby Firmino hanging in my living room, and every day I look at the man and I just smile. Every day I look at that photo and I just smile. Right, ladies and gents, I didn't realise I'd been on this long. I'm going to go record the news video and I will see you guys tomorrow. Time got away from me because I was enjoying myself so much chatting with you all. But again, thank you for dropping in. Appreciate you all. Favourite Irish LFC player, Ronnie Whelan for me. Yeah, it's a belter of a show. Can I shithouse and say Aldo? If I can't, because, you know. Yeah, Ronnie Whelan. Ronnie Whelan, Steve Finnan. But yeah, if I could throw Aldo in, just, you know, I know he's Irish played for us, so, you know, I think he's Irish, but if you want to push me for born and bred Irish, then yeah, Ronnie Whelan or Steve Finnan. Right, ladies and gents, I'll see you tomorrow. Thank you so much again for jumping in tonight. Great fun with you guys. If you can hit the like button for me, we're close to 1,000 likes. If we can keep going, get that up to 1,000 likes, that would really help out. We only need 85 more to go to get up there. But I'll see you tomorrow, back to our normal schedule. Video at 4:30, stream at 9:15, and then a late video tomorrow night as well. But yeah, thank you all so much. Have a good weekend, or what's left of it.